Hello students, I am Indira, NEET Biology faculty. In this channel, we will see all the biology topics regarding living world in first year NCERT textbook till the environmental issues in second year NCERT textbook. So now we will start with living world chapter. Now we will start with the first chapter of 11th class NCERT or first year NCERT textbook, that is about living world. In this chapter, there are some details regarding origin of species and also different characteristics of species or different characteristics of living organisms, and also how the names are given, how the organisms are being distributed in different taxonomic groups, and what are some of the explanatory terms that support the taxonomy called as taxonomic aids, etc. So we will start with the first one, characteristic features of living organisms. Regarding all these living organisms, how they are distributed, the detailed explanation initially it was given by Ernest Mayr. He belongs to year 1904 and 2004. So initial studies are in detail explained by Ernest Mayr. He belongs to year, means he was born in 1904 and he died in 2004. So during his study of 1953, he was working as a professor in a university, and he has given many details regarding the living organisms and their ecological distribution. Coming to other important concept, that is characteristic features of living organisms. We will see there are nearly 6 to 7 characteristic features. We will see few which are very much important here. First one will be growth. Second one is reproduction. Third one is a response to stimuli. Fourth one, metabolism. Fifth one, consciousness. Sixth one, cellular organization. We can also use another characteristic feature like interrelationship among the living organisms to exist in the nature. But these 6 are considered as very important characteristic features of living organisms. First one, we will start with growth. Growth can be defined as the increase in number of organisms, mass of organisms, weight of organisms. Growth is defined as increase in mass, size, weight, and number of cells which are present inside the organism. There is one term called as defining feature. Is the term applied to only living organisms. Now, as we have said that growth is nothing but increase in size, shape, weight, number of cells. Living organisms show growth from inside of the body. Means they start growing the number of cells and they show the growth externally or morphologically or phenotypically inside of the body, which is exhibited externally. Now, growth is also seen in case of non-living organisms. Also show growth, but only externally on the surface of the body. If we take example of non-living organisms that show the growth, example can be mountain. Can also be hills. We see there is more and more soil accumulation on the rocks, mud accumulation on the rocks and the hills. But here, during the summer season, it gets dried off, and we see more and more soil layers which are accumulated on the hills. So that in course of evolution, if initially the size of the hill is very smaller in size, but if it was calculated after several thousands of years, the size of the hill will be bigger and bigger. That is because of accumulation of the soil particles or the dust particles or any of the organic matter there, that increases the size of the non-living organism. They show growth by accumulating of soil and organic matter. But here we have seen one important term, that is defining feature. As defining feature is the term that has to be applied only for living organisms. But growth is the characteristic feature that is seen both in living organisms and non-living organisms. So growth is called as non-defining feature. Is non-defining feature. Again I am telling, defining feature is the term that has to be applied only for living organisms. But growth is shown in living organisms, it is okay. But it is also seen in case of non-living organisms, so that growth is called as non-defining feature. Next characteristic feature is reproduction. Reproduction is nothing but giving rise to the offsprings. In reproduction, we know there are two different types: asexual type of reproduction and sexual type of reproduction. So if it is asexual, we see in most of the lower organisms. There also we will see some of the sexual type of reproductions, but most of the organisms exhibit asexual type of reproduction. Here, reproduction is of two types, that is asexual and sexual type of reproductions. Reproduction is exhibited by living organisms. Reproduction is defined as capacity to produce the offsprings. Now, reproduction is said as non-defining feature, again just like growth. Now, here we can see reproduction is not exhibited by non-living organisms. But how can we say that? Here we can see reproduction only in living organisms. By here we write only living organisms. It is not exhibited by non-living organisms. Still we are telling reproduction is a non-defining feature. How is it possible? Because among living organisms, there are some types of sterile living organisms which cannot show either asexual or sexual mode of reproduction. Because among living organisms, there are sterile organisms that cannot reproduce. So that reproduction is also termed as non-defining feature. This is about two different types of characters, that is characteristic features, that is growth and reproduction. Third characteristic feature is response to stimuli. It is said that, or it is fact that, only living organisms will respond to surroundings. Means non-living organisms will not at all respond to surroundings. For suppose if you take touch me not plant, if it touch, then the leaves will be folded. If any human being is there, if you touch a hand or face, then they will respond to that touch. Likewise, all types of living organisms will exhibit this characteristic feature, that is response to stimuli. Non-living organisms will not show this type of characteristic feature. Response to stimuli is considered as defining property. But among living organisms, coma patients are there who are not at all responding to any of touch or any of stimuli. Then how can we tell that response to stimuli is a defining feature? Because that coma condition is not from the birth. Among human beings, coma people are not responding to any of stimuli. But response to stimuli is a defining property because the coma condition is not by birth. But it is due to any of some accidental situations during their lifetime. Because of that, we can tell response to stimuli is a defining property. Next one, consciousness also we can consider here. Coma people are not in conscious. Still, consciousness is also a defining property. Here also we can take the same coma people. Also a defining, exclusive defining property. As we can take the same type of example here and explain the consciousness which is exhibited by the people who are normal but not exhibited by coma people. Next one, metabolism. Metabolism is applicable, the term applicable only to living organisms. Metabolism is a combination of anabolism, next catabolism. Anabolism means synthesis, catabolism means breakdown. Synthesis can be seen by the process of photosynthesis exhibited by the plants. Breakdown, we can say glucose is broken down to release energy. Nothing but respiration we can take example here under catabolism. There are some types of reactions that are showing same type of means synthesis and breaking down types of reactions when we do in the laboratory. Those are not called as metabolic reactions, but those are said as living reactions but not under metabolism. The reactions conducted in laboratory are only living reactions but not metabolic reactions. So these are few types of characteristic features. Means there is one special organization of the body that exhibits metabolism. The particular organization of body to carry metabolism is also considered as defining property. So these are few different types of characteristic features in living organisms. We will see about the nomenclature and different types of terms like trinomial nomenclature, tautonymy, and how the names are given, who gave these names in the next video.